Marhaba everyone. If I can please ask you to all come closer to the stage. Thank you all for joining us in our national rally to commemorate the 78th anniversary of our Nakba. We gather here on Wajak land, a land that has never been ceded, land that carries memories for older than any documents, land that has endured, resisted, and survived, and it is only right that we are welcomed by those who have held custodianship of this place for tens of thousands of years. There is a deep and living connection between both our struggles, not because they are identical, but because they echo one another. Through dispossession, through resilience, through the unbreakable connection to land. Both remind us that land is not just soil beneath our feet. It is a story, it is life, it is connection that no one can break. And so, as we stand here in solidarity, we also call to stand in truth. On this land, to listen, to learn, and to honor the ongoing struggle and the ongoing strength and sovereignty of its people. As we begin this rally, I invite Uncle Hadley, who will be honoring us by giving us a welcome to country.
Thank you. Kaya, welcome. Hello, welcome, Wanju. The welcome to country is an acknowledgement and recognition of the rights of the Noongar people. The act of getting a representative who has traditional local links to a particular place, area or region is an acknowledgement of respect for traditional owners. It is respect for people, respect for rights, and respect for country. The land, waterways, and cultural significant sites are still very important to the Noongar people. Ngalak Jurpen Wanju Nanak Ngala Noongar Buja. We are pleased to welcome you into our Noongar country. Nicha Ngala Murt Buja, Kura Kura. This is our ancestors' land from the dream time. Nicha Ngala Kala Buja, Kura Wankining Ngani Ngala. This is our homeland of history. Jurpin Mur Ngala Buja, Kura Wangani Kedala. And as one, we are a proud people of our land. Ngala Yakining Ngalak Nunga, Nyitiang Ngalak Angani. Through history till today, we stand together, black and white. We are one. Thank you.
Thank you, Uncle Hadley. For those who think that our Nakba is a scar, let me correct you. Our Nakba is not an old wound. It is an open wound that is 78 years old. Nakba never ended in 1948. Never been only the tearing of families from their homes, from their loved ones. Never only the theft of villages, the burning of olive trees, the uprooting of entire families from their homes with keys carried in trembling hands. Our Nakba became our living inheritance. We inherited that living wound, along with the refugee status and the feeling of loss attached to it. Our Nakba passed from grandmother to granddaughter, from a grandfather to a grandson, not as history, but as memory stitched into daily life. In the way a mother folds the za'atar in a dough while she tells her children the name of villages they will never see. In the way an old man still points towards a horizon and says, our home was there. As though distance itself could be undone by remembering. The first generation carried the wound in their feet, walking roads of exile, with children in their arms and graves behind them. They buried photographs in their hearts while the land had been robbed of them and taken from beneath those tired, bloodied feet. The second generation inherited survival. They learned how to make a life in refugee camps, built as a temporary place that become permanent scars. They learned how to explain distance to children born in places that were never meant to be home. The third generation inherited questions. Why do we keep a rusted key that opens no visible door? Why does every celebration carry grief seated quietly at the table? And now, generations later, the Nakba still breathes. It lives in checkpoints and prison walls, in demolished homes and uprooted trees, in mothers waiting outside military courts, in fathers teaching children the geography of loss before they teach them the alphabet. It lives in Gaza where children inherit siege before they inherit language, where hunger is passed down like an unwanted heirloom, where survival itself becomes resistance, where a genocide managed to swallow what's left of what once was life. It lives in the West Bank where homes are demolished and land is taken over by thieves coming from Brooklyn and other places around the world. Intergenerational pain is not only trauma, it is the burden of remembering when the world demands forgetting. What remains is belief that no one can take a homeland from a people who carried it in their hearts for 78 years. Let's start with welcoming Madeleine, who's going to start our rally with a piece called Homeland, Mawtani, written and composed by Palestinians. Madeleine Antoine studied classical music in WAPA, the Prague Conservatory at the UWA. She has toured with orchestras across Canada, China, and Europe. She's a passionate advocate for social rights and environmental justice, themes that influence her 2 albums, Soul and The Dying Sun. She is grateful to be here on this occasion to share her music with solidarity and love to the Palestinian people. So please, make her welcome. Thank you so much, Madeline. That was beautiful. Can we have another round of applause, please? To be a Palestinian is often to be born carrying names, places, and mourning what began before your own life. To know that your grief has an ancestry, but alongside pain travels something else: resistance. The same grandmother who passed down sorrow also passed down steadfastness. The insistence on remaining, the refusal to let memory be erased, the stubborn planting of an olive tree beside rubble, a cactus fighting to survive, the teaching of songs older than the occupation, the certainty that return is not a fantasy, but moral truth. The occupier wanted Palestinians to become a people without memory. But instead, memory became one way amongst many ways for resistance. The Nakba is inherited, yes, but so is dignity, so is defiance, so is the belief that exile is not destiny. And perhaps that is what frightens Israel most, that after 78 years, after genocide, massacres, sieges, prisons, and graves, Palestinians still say the names of their villages if they are expelled from them. They still remember them from stories from their grandparents, and they will not forget them. And prayers, when repeated by generations, become impossible to erase. My next speaker knows that feeling and speaks of it without focusing on what's been done to us, but what should be done to stop it. Amin Majzoub is a member of the Palestinian community whose family comes from Akka in the north of Palestine, 1948. So please make him welcome.
I want to start with acknowledging the traditional owners of the land, the Wajak people of the Noongar Nation, on whose land we stand today. Friends, we are told human rights are universal, but look around. Look at Gaza, look at the West Bank, look at the deserts of Australia, where we lock children away. The truth is loud and clear. Human rights are only for the powerful. The weak, they are disposable, we're told. There is probably no clearer example of that than Mark Carney's, the Prime Minister of Canada, rushing out to tell us about a new necessary world order where middle powers should band together to stand up to the hegemon. That was when Donald Trump was threatening of taking over Greenland. That same Mark Carney, who rushed out again a few weeks later to support Donald's illegal war on Iran alongside our Prime Minister. Shame. Today I'm not here to talk about my family's Nakba story, because frankly, I'm sick of it. I'm here to name the crime. I'm here to connect the dots, because the same machinery that erased Palestine in 1948 is grinding down Aboriginal sovereignty, refugee and immigrant rights right here, right now. Starting with the Nakba, not a tragedy, only a crime known all too well. As you all know, in 1948, 85% of the indigenous population of Palestine were driven out of their homes. Villages and towns wiped off the map. Families marched to the border at gunpoint. Shame. Why? Because one people's right to a state was deemed more important than another people's right to exist, right to life itself. That is ethnic cleansing, that is genocide, plain and simple. And make no mistake, as Hiba said, that same Nakba never stopped. It is happening right now. Every morning on the West Bank, another family wakes up to demolition orders. Settlers with military backing storm villages, kill guard dogs, steal livestock, children shot, olive groves burned. In Gaza, before the bombs, there was the cage, a blockade that turned 2 million people into prisoners on their own land. That is not conflict. That is expulsion in slow motion. From a human rights perspective, the underlying reason is simple. Where power is absolute, rights are optional. The world allowed it then, the world continues to allow it today. Now let me shift your attention to the situation here. The same machine, a different flag, not too far away. We stand on stolen land, the same logic that justified the Nakba under the doctrine of a land without people, for a people without a land, justified terra nullius. The lie that this land was empty, the massacres, the stolen children, the forced relocation, that was this continent's Nakba. And it was never a settlement, it was a war crime. And how have human rights deteriorated since? Let me count a few ways. Our government here over decades locked up refugees on Nauru and Manus Island indefinitely. Children have tried to take their own lives. And what does our parliament say? Border security. That is the same language used to justify home demolitions in the West Bank. Security, necessity, lies. And for First Nations people, prisons are filled with Indigenous children as young as 10. 10. The UN has begged us to stop, we simply ignore them, because security. Why? Because the underlying reason is the same as the Nakba. Once more, we have decided that some lives count less. Now, why does making that connection matter? When you see a banner with the face of Dr. Hussam Abu Safiya, who's still denied justice and languishing in Israeli jails, remember Zomi Frankum, who our own government doesn't seem to care enough to get her and her family justice. When you hear about apartheid death penalty applicable only to Palestinians, remember the two-tier law enforcement system that we have here. A home demolished in Hebron and a community depopulated in Alice Springs are not the same act, but they are the same crime. The belief that someone's survival requires somebody else's disappearance. That is the enemy, not a nation, not a religion, the hierarchy of human worth. The hierarchy that is making its way very casually into our political discourse. Not only weaponized against First Nations people, but also extended to migrant communities that don't have the right democratic skin color. We are living at times in a country that, with the most stringent immigration policy, and hearing Angus Taylor, the leader of the opposition, saying plainly that the numbers have been too high and the standard has been too low. That is not policy against immigration. That is policy against the wrong immigrant, even the immigrant citizen. A hierarchy. So what do we do now? First, we name it. The Nakba is not past tense. It is present continuous. Say it: ethnic cleansing, genocide, apartheid, crimes against humanity. Second, we refuse the silence. When our government applauds Israel's right to defend itself while bombs fall on refugee camps, we shout. When our government says free speech has to be limited to protect social cohesion, we exercise our right to mobilize and disrupt life as usual. Third, we connect our struggles. Free Palestine, justice for First Nations, they are not separate causes. They are the same fight against the same logic. The Nakba teaches us one thing, that human rights are not universal. They are not given, but they are taken. And they are only defended as long as we refuse to look away. So I ask you today, not for sympathy, but for action. From the river to the sea, from the Jordan Valley to Aralunku, aka MacArthur River, no more dispossession, no more hierarchies. If we think we can right the wrongs in Palestine, then we most certainly can start correcting wrongs here, on this land. We often say no one's free until Palestine is free, but I will say Palestine will only be free when we are all free. Free Palestine, justice here, now. Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Thank you.
In 1948, Israel burned 500 villages, but they haven't burnt out our memories of them. They might have displaced 750,000 Palestinians in that year, but their descendants are scattered around the world, telling our story, spreading our message, and knowing very well that they have every right to return to Palestine, all of Palestine, to their villages, to their towns, to their cities, to Palestine, all of Palestine. 1948 was only our opening wound. Today, that wound bleeds more than ever, soaking the soil with sorrow, defiance, and the shattered pieces of our stolen dreams. Last year, I told you that somewhere in that broken land, my cousin was telling his children to pause, to look around, to memorize every corner of their beautiful home, every leaf in the garden, every stretch of sky before the Israeli warplanes turn it all to ash once again. This year, I can tell you that their beautiful home that they built with lovely memories is no longer there. Unlike his grandparents, my cousin is now living in the same pain of rapture and suffering. I stand here, like most of us, suffocated by the guilt of survival. And I ask myself, is it our destiny and the destiny of every Palestinian to live through the Nakba at least once in their life? Is it written for us to exist only through the prism of pain? To carry an open wound that never closes? Is this what it means to be a Palestinian? To live, love, and grieve all in the same breath? How can the world see us if not through the wound? Can they ever see our children, bright faces without the veil of dust and rubble? How can the world see us if not through that wound? Will they ever hear our voices without echoes of tragedy? When will they finally look at us and see more than what has been done to us? The answer is the future. And today, I would like to present to you the future. The younger generations of Palestinians who vow to continue to fight for justice and freedom. Please help me welcome Dareen. Dareen is a Palestinian of the diaspora, inherited stories of grief, displacement, and has watched from afar as her family, people and country are slowly being erased. As an Australian Palestinian, Dareen made it her mission to tell the real raw human experience to Australians. So please, make her welcome.
The Nakba of the Palestinians, I also remember and grieve the ongoing Nakba of the Wajak Noongar people, the traditional custodians of this land. I pay my deepest respects to their elders, past, present and emerging, and I express my sincere thanks to all Indigenous Australians who stand with us in remembrance and resistance today. The other day, I had a client at work ask me, "Where are you from?" That dreaded question. I told him, "I'm from Palestine." He seemed surprised by this and he asked me, "Where in Palestine?" I was taken aback. I've never had someone who was not a Palestinian ask me, "Where in Palestine are you from?" I didn't know how to answer him. Do I tell him about Fallujah, the town my family fled 78 years ago, a town that no longer exists? Do I tell him about our olive trees, our orange trees, the land and farms that we cultivated for generations, the land that was razed to the ground, replaced by an Intel factory? I thought about my Australian passport, the passport that allows me to live, travel with a freedom that my people have not known for 78 years. I thought about the home I never got to see, the family I never got to meet. And I finally answered him, "I'm from Gaza." And I held my breath, the weight of that one word settling between us like a suffocating fog. Then he said, "I have so much sympathy for the people of Gaza," and I almost felt a relief, almost. Then he said, "It's absolutely horrific what Hamas has done to them." Oof, so close. I'm ashamed to say in that moment, I just didn't have it in me. I didn't have it in me to tell him it wasn't Hamas that slaughtered hundreds of my family. It wasn't Hamas that starved them. It wasn't Hamas that destroyed their schools, their homes, their lives, their livelihoods. And I'm so tired. Aren't we all so tired? Why is this still a conversation after almost 80 years after the Nakba, the biggest catastrophe which ripped our people from our home and from each other? Why are we as Palestinians still being made to debate, to justify, to stand on equal ground and take equal blame with those who genocide us? I looked at him and I could just see it in his face. I could see it in his eyes that he knows what he's saying. They all know it was never about Hamas. You could replace the word Hamas with absolute absolutely anything, and it would still be the same result. It was never anything more than a distraction, so all of our energy is spent on endless debates, while the genocide goes unchecked. It was always about a country stolen from its people, a people ripped from their home. It was always about burning those that dare to remain, to resist, to fight. 78 years. How do I convert 78 years of our pain into a language which is not our own? How do I show you the tender, unconditional love of our community, the unbreakable bonds that bind us? How can we possibly reminisce about a home and a past that was stolen from us when our future is burning right in front of us? How do I explain the sheer helplessness of begging, of screaming for someone, for anyone to stop the horror being inflicted on us? How do I explain the suffocation of being gagged at every angle by the same old debate? Our right to speak stolen from our very mouths, our hands tied as our legal human right to resist occupation becomes the very justification for our erasure. How do we show the sheer loneliness and the horror and the pain of being deemed unworthy of life simply because you're a Palestinian? Why is it still a question? I've stood here on this same podium many times and I've asked the same question over and over again. When will it be enough? Enough killing, enough starving, enough torturing, enough erasing? When will Palestinians have not freedom, not dignity, but the simple right to live, to exist, to defend ourselves against those who genocide us? Yet somehow the catastrophe we have witnessed over almost 3 years of genocide has been forgotten. 3 years of indiscriminate carpet bombing, the equivalent of over 150 Hiroshimas. Starvation, complete destruction of all infrastructure, all of life. And now 60% of Gaza is inaccessible to its own people, and the remaining 40% remains under siege, with no food, no prospects, no work, no life or any means of creating life. But the world's forgotten us. Israel will stop at nothing until Palestine is gone. And the genocide, our current Nakba, continues unchecked. As I watch the world turn away, our people all but forgotten, I can't say I have any hope for change. But I'm a Palestinian. My family did not give up when they were violently expelled from their homes 78 years ago, and despite all odds, they're continuing to survive and fight for survival today. I'm standing here because I refuse to let the legacy of my family and my people die. The Zionist terrorist state has stolen everything from us, our homes, our culture, our lives, our humanity, but they will not take our spirit. Our mere existence has become a political controversy, an act of resistance. And I and every Palestinian, we've all inherited the trauma, the loss, the pain, the grief of our parents and our elders who survived the first Nakba. And we carry the horror and the trauma and the grief of our brothers and sisters in Gaza who are fighting for survival today. But we've also inherited their strength, their courage, their resilience and their perseverance. And it is our duty, not as Palestinians, not as Australians, not as Muslims or Jews or Christians, but as human beings. To fight for those that Israel is adamantly trying to exterminate. We cannot stand for it. We cannot continue to be complicit. David Ben-Gurion infamously said, "The old will die and the young will forget." Well, we are living proof of this legacy. We stand here to send one clear message to those who continue to enable the slaughter of Palestine. We are the children of the diaspora. We are the people of Palestine. You will not silence us. We will never be erased. We may die, but we will never forget. We will continue to stand, to speak, to shout, and to fight with our last breath until Gaza is free, until Palestine is free from the river to the sea! From the river to the sea! From the river to the sea! Thank you so much.
Because today we're commemorating the Nakba, I'm honoring my Palestinian brothers and sisters that are here, and I'll say a few words in our beautiful Arabic language. ما لم تأخذه منا النكبة حفظته الذاكرة، وما لم تسرقه المنافي خبأته الأمهات في صدورهن، في مفاتيح البيوت الصدئة، في أسماء القرى التي نحفظها عن ظهر قلب رغم أنف المحتل، في رائحة الزعتر على خبز الصاج، في حكايات الجدات حين يشتد الليل. ما لم تأخذه النكبة منا تركته لنا الأرض أمانة، أن لا ننسى، أن لا نساوم، وأن لا نضل الطريق. My next speaker is Mustafa Saabi. Mustafa is a third-generation Palestinian diaspora organizer from Perth, Western Australia, originally from Haifa's village of Ain Ghazal. He is involved in grassroots advocacy, youth engagement, and community initiatives, so please make him welcome.
From the river to the sea.
Palestine will be free.
From the river to the sea.
Palestine will be free.
I'd like to acknowledge, by beginning to acknowledge that we gather today on the Wajak Nunga Buja and pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging. Ain Ghazal was one more than 530 Palestinian villages that was destroyed in the Nakba of 1948. Its people were forcibly expelled, families under bombardment and massacre, homes, schools, olive trees, mosques, graveyards, entire communities erased from the map, but erased not from our hearts and from our memories. When we speak about Nakba, we speak about four things: strategy, survival, struggle, and resistance. The strategy it's not abstract to us. It is personal. It is in our families. It lives in our stories passed by our grandparents. It lives in every key held by every Palestinian refugee around the world, where they were told they will return in a few days. The Nakba forced more than 750,000 Palestinians from their homes. Tens of thousands were massacred. Entire towns and villages were ethnically cleansed to create a so-called state built on Palestinian dispossession. And 17 years later, we're still here. But just a reminder, the Nakba is still ongoing. It's not 1948, it is still ongoing. In Gaza today, we're witnessing a humanitarian catastrophe in real time. Families buried beneath the rubble, children burnt alive, hospitals bombed, journalists assassinated, universities destroyed, refugee camps turned to mass graves. In the West Bank alone, there is land theft, military raids, checkpoints, home demolition, and settler violence. And recently, by the criminal Ben Gvir, he passed a law that allowing for the execution of Palestinian prisoners. Shame! And also in Lebanon, Palestinians are being denied the right to return. Lebanese are being denied the right to return. The Nakba did not end. It changed, but never stopped. Palestinians survived many things: siege, exile, occupation, imprisonment, assassination, and decades of attempts to silence us. Yet we're still here, still speaking, still remembering, still resisting. And here our resistance comes in a different shape. Resistance is also your memory. Resistance is also teaching your children where they come from. Resistance is preserving your culture. Resistance is embroidery, our stories, and the right to armed resistance. Resistance is refusing to accept that the Palestinian life is disposable. And our struggle is not only against bombs and occupation, it also begins against complicity. Right now, the Australian public money is being invested into companies profiting from Israel's genocide. The Australian Future Fund currently invests hundreds of millions of dollars into weapons and corporations tied to the Israel violence against Palestinians. Companies like the Elbit Systems, Lockheed Martin, and Palantir AI. Israeli banks that finance illegal settlements and the demolition of Palestinian homes. This means you, Australian taxpayers, are paying for this. We need action. We need people to pressure Treasurer Jim Chalmers, Finance Minister Katie Collinger, and the Future Fund Board to divest from the genocide. We need people to organize, protest, contact your local member, educate your community, spread the word, support boycott campaigns, and refuse to stay silent while Palestinians are being massacred in real time. Because silence is not neutrality. Silence sides with the oppressor, and it always has been. And despite everything, Palestinians continue to resist with incredible courage and dignity. This is why a Nakba is not only a story of tragedy, it is a story of survival, struggle, and resistance. Before I finish, I want to leave a message that is concrete to everyone here. Please challenge misinformation when you hear it. Contact your MPs. Demand divestments from companies profiting of genocide. Join these protests. Support boycott campaigns that are across the tables here. Approach them. Get involved. Donate to trusted Palestinian organizations. And most importantly, do not become numb to Palestinian suffering. Because the Nakba is not history, the Nakba is now. I also want to mention there's an upcoming screening of the documentary Tantura on the 23rd of May at the Perth State Library at 6:45 p.m. The film documents the massacre and expulsion of Palestinians from the village of Tantura in 1948. Please speak to us afterwards if you'd like more information. Thank you for being here, for standing with us. Thank you for coming every year, and we as Palestinian community, we appreciate you. And for refusing to look away. From the river to the sea.
Palestine will be free!
Thank you.
My next speaker carries Gaza in her heart and works tirelessly to keep Gaza present in our lives by making a real change on the ground. Dr. Lama Al-Ramahi is an Australian Palestinian doctor born in diaspora and currently working in WA. Her father is a Nakba survivor and her mother grew up in the West Bank. after displacement from historical Palestine. She is a strong advocate for Palestine and humanity. She is part of health care workers for Palestine, Perth doctors, medical aid, the WA representative of PANSMA, and the founder of Nasirun, a humanitarian charity organization focusing on Gaza and Lebanon. She has been organizing medical supply to Gaza and conducted many humanitarian initiatives in Gaza to support its women, men, and children. So please make her welcome.
Of your homes. I welcome you on the lands of the traditional people, on the land that never been ceded, on the lands that many lives have been affected by it, and we welcome and acknowledge the original custodians, the First Nations people, past, present, and the future. One day we will greet you on the Palestinian lands, and we will acknowledge our past people who are courageous and shed their bloods to liberate it. I thought standing here would be easy. I recited my speech again and again, but here I am, filled with emotions and stopping me from talking fluently as I would want. 78 years since the Nakba, the catastrophe, and we are still standing. I didn't give up, my people didn't give up, and we will never give up. And thank you too for not giving up on our cause too. So really big thank you. Please tap yourselves on your shoulder and commend yourself for being here after more than 2.5 years on the streets, raising your voice and calling for humanity to actually listen to the hearts and the sounds of the children, women and men in Gaza and in Palestine in general, and all of the region which is actually burning at this stage. There are many things mentioned by the previous speakers, so I'll start to focus on a new angle. So I just want you to listen to my words, and I need you to reflect on what your body language will be like when I say those few words, and acknowledge the emotions that come through. When I talk about Nakba, land annexation, and when I talk about colonizing projects and colonial projects, what do you feel? Most probably, it will put most of you in a historical context and will put you in the past, and usually that's attached to an emotion of helplessness and inaction. So be aware that we need a different language that we daily use. When I tell you about my father have been a survivor of the Nakba, and my grandparents had told me stories about their suffering during the Nakba, that also puts you in an emotional status of sadness, which is a paralyzing emotion. Again, we don't want that language to be the prevailing language on our daily talks. So we need to use plain English, plain emotions as we do it in our daily lives with our normal daily English. So you have to start saying that they are actually stealing the lands. They are killing Palestinians as we speak. They are actually destroying their livelihoods, home destructions, business destructions, pulling out trees, stealing cattle. All of that, they are live examples. It's becoming crystal clear at the moment as we speak. We are living déjà vu moments. It is happening again, and when whatever our grandparents told us about is actually live streamed through feeds and videos and TV. We're watching all of it again. There's no room for imagination, there's no room for speculation, it's all there.
Shame.
Now they're not hiding it. They have said it in interviews. So I will read for you about a patient, about a person. His name is Attorney Morris Hirsch. He's a colonel in the reserve at the moment and a researcher at the Jerusalem Center for Foreign Affairs and Security and a former head of the military prosecution in Judea and Samaria. He calls for significantly accelerating construction and development in Judea and Samaria, not behind closed doors or not on a scrap of a paper hidden somewhere. No, he actually said that at a Norwegian program which incited him say, we need to accelerate construction, improve infrastructure and establish new settlements and activities. End of quote. And he set a clear goal. Beginning of a quote, Judea and Samaria should grow to 1 million Jews by the end of 2027. End of quote. My apology for using the word Jews, it should be Israelis, but these are his words. He went on to display the numbers and statistics and how they grew in the West Bank area, and he is very determinant, and he says, beginning of the quote, the growth of Judea and Samaria is not just a security need, but also a Zionist and historical step, end of quote. So where is the rage? Where is the international community rage? Where are the UN sanctions? Where is the Security Council? Where are the international actions? Not words, we need actions, and it's all absent, and that speaks volumes, and that is anti-Palestinian. For those who still say and justify the genocide in Gaza because of October 7, in West Bank there is no October 7. In West Bank, there is no attacks on the settlers. It's vice versa. What you see on the TV and the streams of daily actions by the settlers attacking and burning houses and cars and killing cattle and dogs and attacking human beings and killing Palestinians is not disorganized or is haphazard. It's actually all part of a master plan.
Shame.
The current international community don't want us to practice our right as per our international law, and that's anti-Palestinianism. What should Palestinians do? Die quietly? Should we die quietly? Practice our right to resist. I know this word is inflammatory to many, but it is actually written in the international law that all occupied territories in the world has the right to defend themselves. Now the question to you and the people who are like you, what are the free people of the world will do? What are you going to do? You can't testimony. You are a living person now who's witnessing those events. Please make testimonies, post, share, tell the story. Your videos and posts are going to be the library for the future generations to come. Please be on the streets, raise your voices, and also cut the money chain. So what we're going to do, we're going to do a test, protest, divest. A test, protest, divest. What you're going to do? A test, protest, divest. Come on, say it with me. A test, protest, divest. A test, protest, divest. A test, protest, divest. Thank you.
Our speeches are coming to an end, but I'd like to end by saying To fail a people once is a tragedy. To fail them for nearly a century is betrayal. The world has betrayed the Palestinian people, and history will not forget. We will not forget and will continue to show up for Palestine until it sees justice and liberation, until it's free from the river to the sea. My final message to you as we leave this space is to continue. Some of us may feel a sense of completion, as though we've done our part, but the truth is, our work starts here. Tomorrow, we rise again. We leave this space and continue. We continue with renewed energy, with greater resolve, and with a deeper commitment to continue this struggle. Let today be a reminder of what is possible when we speak up, when compassion becomes action and solidarity becomes something we live, not just something we say. Every conversation, every act of courage, every moment of refusal to stay silent carries this movement forward. And so we leave with no closure, but with purpose. We carry this responsibility with us into our communities, our workplace, our daily lives, knowing that real solidarity is consistent, it is persistent, and it asks more of us each day until justice is reached. We will continue to show up, to speak out, and to stand firm. For every child, every man, every woman, every elderly in Palestine, today, tomorrow, and until Palestine is free, from the river to the sea. So we're going to start our march now, all the way to Russell Square, and we'll stop there. I want to hear your voices loud and clear for every child, woman, and man in Palestine. Free Palestine.